have here on Construye Tus Sueños. Construye Tus Sueños is the youth entrepreneurship education initiative that is sponsored by the Community Economic Development Sector of Peace Corps. But before we go into more details about the actual program, we want to show you a quick video with some footage from last year's business plan competition, where we had about 70 youth come and compete for startup capital for their businesses.
El ser un emprendedor es una forma de pensar, es una forma de ver la vida. Un emprendedor es aquel que tiene la decisión de estar por encima de los obstáculos que le presenta la vida, porque definitivamente te va a presentar muchísimos obstáculos. Si todos los jóvenes empezaran a pensar, como están pensando ustedes, en crear empresas, en crear desarrollo, definitivamente nosotros tenemos la capacidad de cambiar lo que está pasando actualmente en la sociedad dominicana y transformarla en una sociedad muchísimo mejor y muchísimo más progresiva.
Hopefully that video got you guys as excited as I am about youth entrepreneurship. Basically, Construye Tus Sueños, go ahead and take the next slide. Construye Tus Sueños was started in 2006 by a group of 6 CED volunteers who just decided, hey, we know how to teach business skills, and we have some kids that want to do businesses, why don't we have a business plan competition? And 6 years later, in 2012, we're hitting about 400 kids a year in communities all across the country, whether that's in the tip of Las Caleras in Samaná or better knowledge in the South. And basically, basically what Construye Tus Sueños does is it teaches young, enterprising minds, how to grasp this energy and provide them with the skills necessary and the confidence necessary to start and manage and finance their own business. So basically, and this is one of our volunteers, Carrie McGee. She's actually a youth volunteer. She's not in youth. She's not part of the CED program. So these days we try to attract volunteers from all the different sectors to actually teach youth entrepreneurship where there is an opportunity in the communities. And basically we have volunteers to teach Construye in all different types of situations. So some volunteers will actually work with schools, and they might have access to teaching about 70 kids per summer. down to volunteers who just teach maybe one kid in their community. We go over this next slide. And then Construye Tus Sueños has it's a 14-course curriculum. So we teach very basic business skills like how to do a feasibility study. Why is it important to actually plan out business before you actually embark on a business, or investigating a market before you decide you want to do a business. Because a lot of you who have lived in this country have seen, for instance, Kumanos, for example, pop up everywhere just because Kumano seems like a good idea. This guy over here is doing it, my neighbor to my right is doing it. I'll put a Kumano right in the middle, and then they wonder why no one's buying, rice and beans from there, and then they barely survive. So we teach them the importance of that. So back to this. Back. So again, that's like the importance of studying a market. We teach them about a mission and a vision. Setting goals for a business, and it's all about just making a profit. What are they actually trying to accomplish with their business? Is there a problem in their community that they can solve with an organization, with a business, and maybe solve it in a way that they can make a living doing as well? And then we even get to some more complicated stuff like analysis of cost and pricing, doing budgeting, basic accounting. I mean, go to the next slide, please. But again, we have volunteers that teach Construye in all types of situations. This is Dominic Graham. He's a CBD volunteer teaching by candlelight in his community center. Next slide. This is Alana. She teaches the course in her home. Next slide, please. But the coolest part to me about this program, Construye Tus Sueños, is that it's all about the education, providing education on how to be an entrepreneur, how to manage a business. And worst case scenario, if we have a youth entrepreneur that doesn't go to a competition and wins money, or doesn't get a loan to actually start their business, they're learning some really they're taking on a really rigorous curriculum. Some math skills, for example, that they have no previous access to in the public education system. So a lot of the kids that go through the program, you actually see a physical change in them. They have more confidence, not only because of the academic opportunity that they have, but again, we instill confidence that kids have the opportunity to change their own lives. Instead of waiting or going out to find a job or waiting for an opportunity to come upon them, we give them a chance to create opportunities for themselves. So this is actually a picture from the national competition that we had last year. These are the 4th place winners, and that's again Alana Crowley on the right. The young man on the left, he won about 15,000 pesos to start up a motorcycle repair shop. But again, that's the upside. That's the best case scenario of the program. Is that you come to the competition, and you actually have a chance to win money and start this business, your own business, put your idea into fruition. And one thing that we're working on going forward, which Brian's going to talk a little bit more about, is doing a better job at creating opportunities for microfinance, microloans for participants who cannot win. So that's sort of the best case scenario of the program. Next slide, please. So basically, there's 3 basic pillars to the program. The first one is the actual course. The second one is the competition, or the conferences where they come, meet business executives, meet development specialists that can help judge them on how good their business is, and network as well there. And the third step is the follow-up. So once we do have participants who receive loans or receive actual prize money from the competition, the volunteers that work with those kids are then responsible for providing consultancy, helping the kids actually implement the business plan that they've written, and turn an idea into an actual business. Some of the issues that we're trying to work through, that we're trying to iron out with the program that have arisen over its past 6 years of existence, is making sure that our participants who are able to start businesses do it in a way that's sustainable. Because a lot of our businesses, even with all of our training, have a high rate of failure. And again, just providing another issue, just providing continuity for the Construye Tus Sueños program as a whole, because it's largely a secondary project for most volunteers, and the volunteers who actually operate the program, operating the program itself as a secondary project. But Brian talked a little bit about how we're addressing these issues and what we're doing to make Construye a bigger, better program going forward.
I may be mistaken. I'm not sure if you'll introduce yourself. This is Phil Waller. He's the outgoing coordinator for Construye Tus Sueños. My name is Brian Humphreys. I'm a second-year volunteer. I'm the incoming coordinator for Construye Tus Sueños for 2012. Before I get into my little spiel, we actually have a treat. Porque aquí tenemos dos de los ganadores de Construye Tus Sueños 2011. Un aplauso. Hemos tenido problemas con los fondos, pero esta semana ellos van a recibir su dinero. Si Dios quiere.
Dios quiere.
Okay. First of all, I love Construye. When Phil announced he was going to leave, I bugged him for a long time. So I wanted to take over Construye. I think it's a fantastic program. I wanted to coordinate it. I'm excited to be coordinating it. I'm going to explain a little just about what 2012 holds for us, what we're going to try to do, what we are doing, what my coordinators and I are considering. First of all, we're tackling this issue of having businesses actually continuing to run. We've noticed kind of a problem with some of the awarded businesses not going on forever, which is obviously a tremendous problem. So I just wanted to acknowledge a few of the steps that we are taking this year. First of all, we're just evaluating the entire system, from the course to the writing of the plans, to the evaluation of the plans, to the competition, to figure out where maybe some of those problems are coming in. One of the main things we're looking at is we think that maybe the first round of judging the plans, when they get submitted, we think that maybe some of the groups that are a bit more charismatic and great at getting points are getting in, and not necessarily the hardest working groups. Some of the hardest working groups are going to spend hours on their budget and maybe not on other sections, so they won't get as many points to then go on to the competition, but maybe they will have a more feasible plan. So that's the kind of thing we're evaluating. The distribution of money, if you drop 60,000 pesos on a kid from the Congo who's like 18, there's going to be lots of problems. The family's going to basically require him to lend some of it out, probably. Deals that he made when he was planning his budget are going to take away because now he has a fortune. So for instance, this year we're going to be giving out in 2 or 3 rounds. And so once we disperse that first round, when receipts come in, then for what they said they're going to use that money for, we'll disperse the second round. And we're going to try that for the first year this year. Better just sheer follow-up and support. We don't want to find out about these problems a year and a half down the road. So we want to have better support right away, make sure that they get the money in a timely fashion, that they're using what they're supposed to be using it for, and making sure that Peace Corps is a strong part of that. And one of the things we're going to try to do better this year, which is related to fixing this problem, is more partnerships with institutions. So we can talk about a lot of things. We can talk about all the partnerships. There's 3 or 4 organizations we're working with right now, one very seriously. And just to gather some experience from other people that have been wrestling with this idea of how do we emphasize entrepreneurship in Latin American countries that have been doing it longer than we have. We could talk about how we're trying to focus on women. We could talk about the specifics of how we're trying to do documentation. But I'm just going to briefly mention the 3 most important things that we're working on. The first, I already kind of mentioned that with these partner organizations. The second and third are innovation and microfinance. Innovation is a problem, well, it's kind of a problem, but it's also an opportunity. It's a problem in that a lot of the kids are looking at the same businesses everybody else in the community is doing over and over and over again. And I had kids, I taught 5 classes last year, I had 67 students. And I heard many times kids say, we already have colmados, people are already selling clothes, we already have ice cream shops, all the ideas are taken, what can we do? And a lot of them didn't want to continue from that point. So just to talk about that idea of like, we don't actually even want to do those ideas. Let's evaluate what the demand is, what the needs are, what people want, and maybe find something else that there's demand for that nobody else is doing. And not only that, but we want more than to just create a few small businesses that give that one person employment. I personally would love, probably it's going to happen long after I'm gone, but at some point I would love for a Construye graduate, and especially a Construye winner, to start a business that has a very innovative element that grows because it is innovative and there's lots of demand for it that isn't being met, and can actually create employment for other people. Because obviously unemployment is very high among youth, and they're not all going to drive motos. And what we need is for people to start businesses that are going to grow and create jobs. I push this with my kids, and they know that that's what we'd love to see happen. Microfinance, because it's a shame to have, we had 45 plans submitted, 24, they all were represented at the national competition. 24 competed, out of which only 4 won, or will be winning, money. So we had 20 plans that did all this prep, 45 groups that wrote all these amazing plans. 64 groups. 64 groups. Oh my God. 24 groups that actually did the plans, prepared for the competition, came and presented. These kids were terrified to present. It was an amazing experience. They came and presented, and 20 groups had to just kind of go away. And halfway through the conference realized they weren't going to be winning any money, and we're kind of, that was it for them. So we want to have a strong microfinance component somehow. And make sure that the kids are coming ready to present to microfinance organizations, give them an alternative so that we can add more hopefulness to more of the groups. And maybe make it more of a microfinance conference with this competition element where some kids can win money, hopefully even more groups. And then there's one more thing I want to mention. I want to save a little bit of time because you have questions. There's one very big ambitious goal we want to do, which relates to the idea that I think Phil mentioned of continuity. We have the problem with volunteers coming and going every year is that we kind of are trying things that maybe a volunteer already tried 3 years ago. And it would be great to know that that had already been tried. And so we have an ambitious goal to actually start a nonprofit organization in the States. We want to file for 501c3 status with the IRS by October. And the function of that would be outgoing volunteers, as they're returning to the States, can join essentially the board of directors of that, especially people who work with Construye. We want to keep Construye itself informal and volunteer-led. We would have this sister organization in the States that's volunteer-run. Its only function would be to do some marketing for Construye in the States, have a bank account, and hold Construye here accountable. And it would also have that history. That's going to be a lot of work. It would also give us control over our funding. Right now we're kind of using the PCPP, a Peace Corps grant, which is problematic and complicated and makes a lot of things that we want to do difficult. If we could have an account in the state's name that we would have access to with the permission of that board of directors, obviously an executive director, that would make the whole process much easier and make us more accountable to our budgets. If we know that we're taking money to do an activity that's going to come out of our overall fund, we're going to be much more likely to make sure that it's worthwhile, to put in the work to make sure that it's worthwhile. So those are the main things we're doing, right? Working with other institutions, emphasizing innovation, including microfinance component, and hopefully starting a 501c3 organization. Those are the main things, among others, that we are trying to tackle this year. And then we'll pass on to the next recording when they eventually come in. That's Construye in a nutshell. We have 5 minutes, which will turn into either a question and answer or an extended break. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time. If you want to eat your Muppets, that's it. Yeah.
What is the 5-year success rate that's still alive here?
We don't have, that's another thing too, so we haven't done a great job of keeping this data going forward. So that's another one of the additions we're taking this year is, looking at the little data that we do have and tracking it. But all I can tell you anecdotally is that it hasn't been good.
And if we know that if we're talking about doing a 501c3 in the States and we're talking about marketing, obviously it will be such a waste because we have such a fantastic program. Such a high, we're all volunteers, such a high percentage goes directly to the kids, which is such a controversy in the States, is overhead. We have almost no overhead other than some of the charity stuff, the conference itself. And so it's a fantastic opportunity many people want to give to. But if we don't have solid documentation, if we can't provide those statistics, even anecdotally, but especially statistically, that we are successful with how we use our money, there's no point in doing that marketing in the first place. So that's a tremendous problem that we haven't had fantastic documentation with. Maybe next year we'll have a number. Yeah,
Sorry, I came late, so I don't know if you already addressed this. What were the 4 projects that What was the substance of the 4 projects that won?
So this year, the 2011 winners, the first place guy was a guy who wants to open an English school in Pedernales. And he's actually very bright, and I think he's going to be very successful with that. Second place, we have Gene and Oscar in the back. Gene and Oscar. They have a peanut butter business, and they're in Bate Sex in Baruco, and they make the most delicious, salty and sweet peanut butter. And every time they bring it to the Peace Corps office, it's sold out that day. They have ustedes quieren comprar su mantequilla.
¿Cómo se llama ese mamba?
Tipo mamba. Yeah. So they're selling it right out here in the where they're selling everything else. But basically their problem is, so this was an example of guys who already had a business and they wanted to expand their business through our program. And their problem was that they had a ton of demand and were not able to produce peanut butter quickly enough because it's just so good. So when they finally do get their money, they'll be able to buy the machinery they need to crank it out at a much faster pace. Third place, just to finish the question, I'll hurry up. So third place was a guy from Monte Plata who wants to do an electrical appliances repair shop. And then the fourth place guy was a motor repair shop. So those are the 4 winners from this year.
Have you approached local financial institutions like AMEMI to work with them such that you could have more funds available and perhaps that some of the responsibility could be borne by Peace Corps rather than actually funding projects with regard to the return on loans that they would offer in case there is a default factor, and perhaps the Peace Corps funds could help cover that, and such that the projects that are submitted could either be accepted or rejected rather than only a few submitted.
Yeah, we actually we're in negotiations with Fundación Dominicana de Desarrollo, which is a microfinance institution here in the DR. We have a representative here today from there. Raise your hand, please. But basically, yeah, that's what we're trying to establish is a more microfinance focused element for that reason. And like you mentioned, we are trying to figure out a way where we can raise funds to provide collateral to lower interest rates for our purposes. And they're gracious enough they've introduced us to other microfinance institutions as well that would be interested in taking on our kids. So the whole idea is that we want Construye Tus Sueños to be a seal of approval for young entrepreneurs, so that they can walk into a microfinance institution and maybe they don't have collateral, maybe they're not a member of that association, but they are a member of Construye Tus Sueños and have intelligent facilitators, teach them how to run a business better than any other person out there. Other questions? I think we have 1 minute left.
That's a really good question.
Or a really bad one.
Have you started the 501c3 process? Are you working with anyone in the States for that?
There's a group of 6 of us. 2 of us are in the States, returned volunteers, and 2 are going to be going back. And yeah, we've been coordinating. We've gathered a lot of paperwork to file articles of incorporation, starting in the state of California, and then in a couple other states when we can. And then 501c3. We haven't been filing any paperwork. We have to contribute, as probably the first board of directors, we have to contribute the money to do all that initial stuff. So we're trying to coordinate that still, but no, we haven't. The goal is to have that ready to go. I mean, obviously we want to be taking donations coming this holiday season, and ones that can be tax deductible donations, which would require at least filing, if not approval with the IRS. So the idea is to have that done by October, but no, we haven't done a whole lot with that at this point. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. If anybody has any things, we're not super prideful people. If you want to come criticize us or give us suggestions or resources, we would love to have them. So, it's about us.
All right. One last question.
Just a testimonial about the program. Unemployment for youth in this country runs over 50%. Youth being 16 to 25. Okay? Our target audiences are people from barrios, rural campos, average education level doesn't reach high school. So they're high school students, most of them haven't graduated. So when we talk about the sustainability of businesses, if they don't, even the ones that do get started, if they don't go beyond 2 or 3 years, years, I don't see that as a problem given what we're starting with. And even in the U.S., small micro business often fail, more than half fail within a 2 or 3 year period too. But what's really empowering is what they're learning and going on. And I had one anecdotal testimony of that. The second year of the program, which was 5 years ago, one of the volunteers taught a young man how to taught the plan. He submitted, he lost. But with the confidence he gained from doing it, he did start a business about a year later. It wasn't even the same plan, but he started his own business. That business failed within a year and a half. But recently, a volunteer who lives in the same community, it was a bigger community, ran into this person. He's driving a Jeep. He's a young man now, about 25. He's driving a Jeep, and they sat down and talked. And he's talking about how he took the business plan competition, started a business, failed the business, but by learning what he did in that business, he got a job with a big hotel company. He's now head chef for a hotel and is making a decent salary and a decent living. And it all started with this power when he got from the music.
They're all good
much beyond. We
we
want to address unemployment and business, and it's not going to get better. There are not a lot of options for formal jobs in the Dominican Republic right now. But by addressing this empowerment, learning how to business skills, learning how to apply them, where these people are taking, what we hope to do now is track these people in the future using Facebook. Because so 5 years from now, we can contact you and see, what are you doing now? How are you using these skills?
So I know we're over on time, but I just want to hit 2 quick plugs before I let you guys go. If you want to support Construye Tus Sueños today, right now, you can get yourself one of these amazing 600 pesos, or about 16 bucks. And that will go directly to funding Construye Tus Sueños, and also helping us cover the costs because we funded the money. And if you want to, stay involved with Construye Tus Sueños, please visit our website that we'll have very soon. The address is www.construyerd, República Dominicana, construyerd.org.
If you forget that, we'll have it written over by the shirt table as well to entice you to go.
And if you want to buy, if you decide later that you want to buy a shirt, you can find our PCVP online through the Peace Corps website, and we're trying to set it up so that anyone who donates 600 pesos, $16 or more, or more. That's the. We'll make sure that you get one of these shirts by mail as a thank you for that. So that's it.